And one of the things I think that people often mention when they talk about diabetes, you often hear this word insulin. What is insulin, and why does it ever come up in a discussion around blood sugar and diabetes?
So insulin is a hormone. So if I was to, and I've just eaten a banana, and my body is breaking down that banana, putting its breakdown products, one of which is sugar, into my blood. But I don't want it to be in my blood for very long. I want to be able to store that energy in various tissues. This also stops my own body making sugar when I don't need it. So I've just had a lot of sugar. Hopefully my insulin started to go up, put the sugar in the right places, and it's also probably signaling to my liver, stop, you don't need to make any more sugar because there's already lots coming in. So it's like a master regulator of keeping sugar levels within the right levels in the blood, putting it in the places where you need it to store for future needs, and also helping you liberate it when you need it. And that actually happens when the insulin levels go right down. So that perhaps when you're sleeping and you're not having sugar in your body, your sugar levels, your insulin is low down, and the liver keeps making sugar sufficient to feed all the cells in your brain, etc., for normal bodily function. So insulin is a master regulator in all of us for our sugar levels.
I guess the obvious question is, why doesn't our body just let all the sugar hang around in our blood? Like the fridge, you just keep putting more stuff in it, and then, my brain or whatever else could take the sugar out when they want it. Why can't I just let it get higher and higher?
Yeah, no, that's a brilliant question. So if you think about sugar, if you spill sugar, particularly in the context of water, it becomes very sticky. When sugar levels become very high in the blood, it starts to stick to lots of our bodily proteins and changes their function, makes them abnormal. So, for example, some of the damage that happens in the eye is because the sugar at very high levels starts to stick, so lots of proteins are relevant to aspects of our eye function, and disrupts it, and you lead to what's known as retinopathy, a damage to the eyes. The same thing happens in the kidneys. The same things happens to some of the bodily parts, proteins that are relevant to nerve function. So sugar levels, when they're high, effectively disrupts lots of raw materials and proteins in our body, and disrupts, therefore, lots of normal function, and causes damage.
I think that's both very clear and it's quite scary, this analogy with like the sugar on the table sticky. I can see that that's not what you want sort of coursing through your blood.
It's a process partly called glycation, and effectively it changes the structure of your molecules from what's normal to abnormal. And then that means it's almost, if I think about it, is, if you're building a house and you start to make bricks and they're the wrong shape, that building is going to be disrupted and will potentially not have the same level of integrity, and will be disrupted and fall apart. That's effectively what's happening inside your eyes, your kidneys, your nerve cells. If your sugar levels are high, you're changing the structure of proteins, so they no longer do what's healthy, and you're building up tissues in an abnormal way that leads to disease. The thing I would say, we did a study of 100 Asian men and white men. Of those 100 Asians, 13 had diabetes and didn't know about it. Okay? Didn't know they had diabetes.
So you had 100 Asians that you studied. None of them thought they had diabetes.
None of them knew they had, and 13, 1 in 7.
13 turned out.
Yeah.
So that's huge. 13% had this, and they had no idea that they had this serious disease.
Exactly. There's a straight line between how much weight you put on and here we go. Just that slope of that line is different for different individuals based on whether you're male or female, South Asian or white, and whatever age you're at, and so on and so on.
And so that does mean, wherever you are, there is something you can do, and it's not just about taking drugs.
So I had a patient this morning in the clinic who has diabetes, who'd undergone surgery for weight loss. They'd lost a lot of weight, their sugar levels had plummeted. They're still within the diabetes range. And the thing I discussed with them was, and they were starting to worry about mobility, was, can you actually now increase your muscle mass? You've lost, and they had lost 7 stone because of surgery. But clearly they could do some resistance exercise, a bit more physical activity to improve the mobility, so to improve the engine side of it. So everyone listening can do something, but what they need to do is find something that they can sustain or enjoy, to reinvent a new version of themselves that they enjoy and they can sustain.